Welcome to Dead School Crypto. This is not financial advice. Always do your own research. We're going to jump into it here in just a second. All right, as you probably know already, we've got PPI numbers coming out here in about an hour and 10 minutes. There is going to be some market volatility surrounding that, so just watch out. Keep your butt cheeks on and make sure you have a solid looking portfolio that's not going to get wrecked every time we get some news that could spark the market or spook the markets. Um, I'm not going to go on camera the entire time today. I'm going to mostly just keep it on the screen here. So you could definitely tell we've had a little bit of an up and down recently, and that is just what it is. Bitcoin's going to range. I'm assuming probably sometime over the next week. We're going to start to see action in the next week. Most likely positive action, but we won't really know until we get there. We might see a market pump a few days prior to Trump's inauguration. There's a lot of buzz on X right now, where he's going to make moves on the first day. And I think that is a possibility. Who knows what he's potentially going to do? I'm not going to put a lot of faith in it right now anyway, just because you never know. Something could come up in the next week. I'm going to err on the side of caution and say we're probably not going to get some sort of executive order in the first week. I think it may take 60 to 90 days before we really see any progress with the crypto market, potentially. Now, if, let's just say hypothetically, President Trump pardons Ross Ulbricht, which is the guy that ran Silk Road, and obviously he's been sitting in jail since like 2013. You know, if he pardons Ross Ulbricht, I think that's going to be great for the space. Sorry, my microphone's a little giving me some issues right this second. Anyway, so if he pardons Ross Ulbricht day one, I think that's going to be huge for crypto. I think a lot of people are going to be super bullish on that. But there might be some negativity surrounding what Silk Road was, which I'll let you do your own research on that, so I don't have to explain it to you. But the gist is you could buy or purchase services of about any kind, from drugs, guns, a variety of other things. I even heard stories of people trying to hire hitmen. Anyway, long story short, he basically got in trouble for that website. As you could probably imagine, one would get in trouble for something like that. So just make sure you're not doing stupid stuff. Make sure that you realize what crypto you're using, and they're all trackable, unless it's a privacy coin, which probably, I'm assuming those can be tracked to some degree. I can't say for 100%, but you do need to be careful. I would not use anything like Tornado Cash or a privacy coin, hypothetically speaking, if the U.S. government's going to deem that a form of like money laundering. We definitely don't need anybody doing anything like that. So just be careful with what you're doing and what you're purchasing. Most of you have probably been around the space for a while. If you're new here, this is a rebranded channel. I actually used to have another channel where I had 100 videos up and just figured they're not going to be relevant right now anyway, since most of them are in the past. Hence why I started a new channel. One second. So I started a new channel essentially because I wanted to be a little less, I guess, visible. Not for any other reason, but just the crypto space gets crazy, and I just want to make sure that I take care of, protect myself, not only from scammers, people that are going to start using AI and recording voices and so on and so forth. Sorry, I'm getting situated in my chair. It's been a little wonky of a start for the day. So that's the reason I use a voice changer, and I'm wearing a mask. So It's sheerly for my protection only. It has nothing to do with anything that I'm going to talk about on the channel. Just as a heads up, I do talk about coins that I own, coins that I don't own. Naturally, I'm going to know more about the coins that I do own because I do my own research. Generally speaking, I'm not going to shill you anything or talk about something that I'll let you know my personal thoughts on it. So, where we're at right now in the market, this is the 4 hour chart. Let me put it on the daily here really quick. If you're wondering what indicators I'm using, the green and red buy and sell indicators, that's from Lux Algo. It also colors the candles based on whether or not they're bullish, bearish, or somewhere in between. You can see right here, I don't have it blown up big enough, but you can probably get a decent look if you have a decent quality place that you're watching this. But you can see how the green are green, and then you see purple, which is indecisive, and the purple has a red border around it, and that basically just means that you're looking at a little bit more of a bearish potential short-term move. The more blue indicators with the green border, obviously you could probably guesstimate that means that things are looking a little bit more positive for the potential near term and long term. You can't always tell like short term, long term with those, but that's one of the reasons why I have market site. Well, I mean, technically, if I put it on the weekly right here, for example, most of this is looking pretty solid right now. If you look at the weekly actually looks pretty decent, with the exception of the DBSI having a 14 up top and a -5 on the bottom. That means that the dual band strength index is actually more bearish. It's looking right here on Market Cipher B. Market Cipher is the indicator package that you see below here, with the orange wave, green wave, and white wave there. Market Cipher uses the numbers here too. I do have a couple of pieces of the package turned off right now, just so you're aware. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm choosing to use indicators that I feel more comfortable with, or at least parts of indicators that I feel like are going to be more beneficial for me personally. I mean, everybody trades a little bit differently. There are people that are going to enjoy using VWAPs or just traditional technical analysis, support trend lines, etc. I do a mixture of a little bit of everything. Mostly, like, I love traditional technical analysis, and I also love both Market Cipher and Lux Algo. Market Cipher is a little bit more predictive rather than a lagging indicator. And you can see here, if you entered the trade here, as you have the momentum waves cruising up pretty at a nice angle to the upside, you have the VWAP that's above the zero line, and you have money flow that's going up. You can see how Market Cipher can get you in. That's a week earlier. That's up to a week there. But you can just, as we kind of go through more and more TA, you'll be able to see that there are, like, for example, here, you get the green dot down here. That's a good indicator or indication that you might want to get into a long. This little green tab here is almost identical as far as the same day. And you just kind of have to look at it in respect to, if I get a green tab here and then I get a green dot down here, for me, that says that's a pretty good move. Just like if you look here, you get a green tab and then you also have a green dot. And these are on the daily. So if you're trading on an hourly or a 4 hour, you might see Market Cipher interprets the data a little earlier. I don't know if they've updated Lux Algo to be more of a predictive indicator or not, but I've just noticed that it does lag a little bit. It's not by much. I mean, if you're trading 15-minute time frames or 30-minute time frames, it might make a difference. I'll have to go back and look because I haven't really compared them in a while, but Market Cipher definitely is more of a predictive indicator, and I generally like using the daily for when I'm charting. And of course, we always go down to like the 4 hour and then the 12 hour, 8 hour, etc., just to see what the short term is really looking like. You can see here we've got a 15 on bottom and a -5 up top. That's actually good. That means that you have more pressure coming upwards. And if you look here, we do have a series of selling candle negative the volume's negative, or I should say more bearish. More people are selling here in the last like 4 days, as you can probably imagine. When we dropped all the way down to, I think it was 89,000, and I do see a little bit of a white speck right there. So it is looking a little bit more positive today. That could change here in an hour once the PPI numbers come in. So just be aware of that volatility. I would even say if you're, I mean, I would be very careful trading right now, because if the numbers come in great, then you would be in a great situation. If you're longing, if you're shorting and the numbers come in great, you might be in a really bad spot. So be very careful just with these numbers like PPI, which is the producer price index, or CPI, which is consumer price index. If you're not sure what that is, the producer price index is basically what it costs companies that create products for the consumers to buy. So the higher the inflation is with the producer price index, the higher the cost is for them, and that cost gets passed down to the retail clients that they have. So we're the consumer price index. The companies we buy everything from are producer price indexes, or at least if they're outsourcing things that they're selling us, those producers that actually make the products that we buy, they're gonna get charged a little bit more for raw materials. Just as a quick explanation of that. So yeah, we're definitely looking at a good looking daily chart right now. I mean, this all tells me that we're going to probably go up, and I think we'll probably do well as long as the PPI comes in good. Meaning, we want to see a lower price producer price index. The lower the number or the lower the percentage, the better it is for everyone, because that means we get to buy goods cheaper. So we want to see a lower producer price index, and I think CPI comes in tomorrow. I'll have to double check that. Uh, but the whole point is that number comes out in an hour, and you're going to see not only the traditional stock markets react, but you'll see the crypto markets most likely react to it as well. Unless, of course, there's some offsetting news, meaning if there's, if the producer price, if the numbers come in, whoops, basically just saying if good news comes in for crypto and Donald Trump starts talking about things that he's going to do on day one or whatever, that's where you might see some offset moves by crypto versus the other markets. But generally speaking, I think we're going to see more correlation for the rest of like 2025. Uh, but like right now, it is going to get a little bit hairy. Uh, let's actually put it on the hourly. Yeah. Okay. So the difference between the daily and the hourly is not looking so great right now. We have a red dot that printed up here, and you see the crest of this momentum wave cutting into the orange wave. It's like a light or a white orange cutting into the darker orange. That usually signifies, as you can see here, when that wave cuts into the orange wave, you can kind of see this little crest. It's almost like a wave at the ocean cresting, and it gets ready to crash. So that's the analogy that I would, use to explain what we're discussing. And you can also see here the RSIs, or I should say the stochastics and RSIs. These two lines here are pinched together almost like on the same line, maybe a pixel apart, which is a really strong signal. So as long as the RSIs and stochastics stay bouncing up in the 85s to 90s, 100 area, that usually means that in a bull market you can see that happen, and then it doesn't mean that it's necessarily overbought. I mean, obviously by the indicator it's telling you that, but it also depends on how much money flow is coming in. And the money flow is this purple wave right here, or this purple blob down here at the bottom. I wonder, it doesn't look like we can see that well. Hang on one second. Whoops. I can't seem to change my indicator. I really would like to change this right now. How funny is that? Okay, enough horsing around here. All right, I'll change it later, but it's a little bit harder to see just because it's purple on black. I'll change it for the next go around that that we when I make another video here soon. Um, so basically, this is a blob right here. It's a purple blob, which indicates for me it's a cooler color, so it's a little bit more negative. But the money flow is green right here. So you can see that little green blob. It's very hard to see if you don't have it zoomed in, but I'll draw it like that. So this is a little bit of green right here. And then as we cross that zero line, we have a nice purple wave that looks like it's going to come up here. And if this reacts like we've seen, if this could react in a very positive way, it could run easily. This one right here was from, let's just see, the zero line was the 12th of January and today's the 14th. So roughly a couple days. So we could easily see the money flow come up and stay above the zero line for a couple days. I am a little concerned. The money right here, the overall shape looks okay. The issue that I'm seeing here on the money wave is it's got this arc, which makes me think it looks like it could be headed back down below the zero line, even though we're at the zero line right now. So that's where we have to like pay close attention. And also this VWAP right here, that white little triangle or a white little pyramid looking shape, there's a little tiny dash right there. And that means it's crossed the zero line. You couple those things with the money flow, the VWAP, the momentum wave, this momentum wave right here, because we have a red dot and the momentum wave is crested to what looks like it's going to be the downside. And then we have these two numbers here, 13 and -1. Those aren't the greatest indicators that match up, or those don't match up perfectly with all the other bearish signals we have in the short term on the 1 hour, but it's getting there. If we have a 14 up top here instead of a 13, and then we had a -5 right here, then that would tell me all my indicators are pretty much lining up for a bearish move to the downside. Now, how big of a move is it going to be? That's where, you have to look at shorter time frames and then up into the longer time frames to really get a little bit better picture of it. If we're looking at the 30-minute chart, it's looking like it's going bearish down here. You can see the move is starting to happen. Your VWAP is below the zero line and it's headed down. Your RSIs and stochastics on the 30-minute chart, they're pretty close together, so it's a stronger signal that if these continue down, that just means that Bitcoin is a little bit overbought, and so it has to cool off and then probably land somewhere around in there before we're going to see it oversold, and then we'll most likely see a move to the upside. Now, the good thing that we're seeing here is the green money flow looks like it's coming a little bit more positive. And to be very transparent with you, this is probably going to be a volatile day. I'd say in the next 20 minutes, you'll probably start seeing the markets potentially move up and down. You may see the crypto markets move up and down fairly violently. Another thing that you might see is on smaller charts, like the 15-minute, it's very bearish as far as the 17 on top and then the -5 here. And we do see a downward trend where the candles are going from green to purple with a red border. So that tells me that Lux Algo, in addition to this red sell signal, it's telling me that we're probably going a little bit lower. It's very possible we could hit 90,000 again or 89,000 today. It really just depends on the news that comes out, and it depends on how all the markets react to the news that we're getting. The other things that lead me to believe that we're probably going to see some downward price action, or at least some volatile price action, is the VWAP right here. It's slightly angled down at about an angle like that. So this little bottom piece right here, that's slightly angled downwards. The money flow is coming down. The momentum wave has that red dot that's going down this way. The RSIs and the stochastics, they're starting to split apart right here. You can see that, the purple and the red line. If they were pinched together pretty tight, then that would give me uh, another indicator. So right now we've got the DBSI, we've got the sell signal for Lux Algo, we have the candle colors. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then we've got the momentum wave, which is 4, the money flow, which is 5, and then the VWAP, which is 6. So most of my indicators that I'm using right now, without even looking at technical analysis or doing traditional TA, they're all basically saying we look like we're headed to the downside, at least in the 15-minute chart that we're looking at there. So it is looking a little bit bearish going into the numbers. Does that mean that we're going to definitely see, you know, negative price action or bearish price action? It doesn't always mean that. I mean, if the CPI or the PPI numbers come out and they come out positive, meaning inflation is going down a little bit, or if the numbers come out and, you know, people that are predicting these numbers overall, if they're starting to see that the numbers are pretty close, or if they come out as expected, that's when we'll probably see some positive price action, because that means that inflation is not continuing to rise from a producer standpoint. So this is what as much as I want to say that we're going up and to the right, I think today we might go down going into the numbers. And you can see here on the 10-minute chart right here, it is starting to crest inward. So it looks like this might start turning around. Your VWAP right here, the white triangle, it is curving upwards this way, which is good on the 10-minute. So as long as we have a good curve going up like this, that's a great sign, because that means that our VWAP is going to be getting a little bit deeper. So, you know, if it were a shallower VWAP like you see right here, see how it just kind of flatlined right there? But if we have something that's coming up this way and it's curving up, then that's a great sign that we are going to see some short-term price action to the upside. Now, whether that's just only going to be on the 10-minute and the 10-minute to the 30-minute changes, and we start to see volatility to the downside, I mean, that is always a possibility. So you have to be very, very attentive to when you're looking at your charts, and you want to make sure that you're not only looking at smaller time frames, but you're looking at larger time frames too. So going to the 10 to the 20-minute, you know, that's still looking a little bit bearish, although our VWAP's starting to come up a little bit. The money flow is still pretty thick right there. I've got a sell signal up top, but it's, you know, this is a little bit more of a wash for me. I don't know that I would want to trade this right here, especially right now. You can see the 30-minute chart is definitely looking a little bit bearish too. Now that doesn't mean that things can't change. Look at the 1 hour. The 1 hour doesn't look great. It looks like it could potentially follow the 10, 15, and 30-minute charts, especially if the money flow rounds to the bottom, rounds to the downside. We really want to see the money flow come up. The positive thing is, in the most recent hours, going back to 10 o'clock last night, you can see how we did get a decent amount of these white candles here at the bottom of my chart. These candles right here, that's a positive indicator that we have more buyers than we do sellers. So that's the volume. The dark gray candles are people selling. The white candles are people buying. I always try to use light and dark colors for the most part when I'm looking at like positive, or, you know, volume indicators, for example. And you can see here on the right-hand side, I've got another volume indicator, and this just where these lines point out and where they run into the candles, that's actually telling you that you have buyers and sellers. Okay, so the higher up we go, for example, you might see that graph change quite a bit. Let me actually move this out of the way here very quickly. So as you change time frames and you change how you zoom in and out on the market, you can see here, there's not a lot that's holding us up from going up into the 100,000 range. Uh, and I wish it kind of went all the way up here, but maybe they just have limitations on the data. So you can see right here, we're just trying to get through this section right here. Let me actually circle that so you can see it a little better. This section right here is where we're at right here. So we're just trying to get past this little peak right here. If we can get over that peak, it'll be a little easier to the upside for us. Now, again, this is, news bearing and what other information is released about producer price index. I don't think Powell is going to talk today. I'll have to look that up, and I'm sure you'll see a bunch of people post about it if he does have anything to say. I don't think he's going to talk until maybe after the inauguration, maybe. Let me double check that. All right, calendars and information. Yeah, it looks like 28th and 29th of this month. So we got a couple more weeks. And that actually could be pretty bullish. Yeah, so Jerome Powell is the chairman of the Fed, so he's not speaking. I think that'll be the 29th. Let me double check. Yeah, 14 days would be Tuesday the 28th, and then, okay. Um, so yeah, when Powell talks on the 28th and 29th, or I should say we'll get some data that comes out on the 28th, and then the 29th, we'll get more information and we'll hear what Jerome Powell has to say about the markets, potential future rate cuts, which a lot of people are thinking that inflation is starting to creep up a little bit, so they might pause. I think we might see a pause. And the reason I say a pause is because if any of the data is not going, if our PPI and CPI are creeping up, even by point 0.2, then I think they're probably going to pause just to try to slow the economy down a little bit more so that as the economy slows gently, hopefully, they can start cutting rates. I mean, I'm sure that there is a possibility that they might cut rates at the end of the month by 25 BPS, which is a quarter of a percent. But I know from the last meeting that they had, I believe it was December 18th, they basically said we see only 2 rate cuts next year. So that does tell me to a certain degree they're thinking that they're going to probably they might watch inflation for the next several months and see what happens. Would be my guesstimation, because once you let the genie out of the bottle, or the monster out of the box, as I like to say, once you let the monster out of the box, inflation can come roaring back pretty bad, just like it did back in the 70s. So that's where I think we're going to get fireworks. After we get the data today, I think that we're probably going to see some movement. It might chop a lot going into the inauguration, or we might see a run up into the inauguration and then a little bit of a cool off. So those are the two things that I'm really paying attention to. I think that it's either going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news, which we already know the rumor, which is Trump taking office, and then a little bit of a sell off once he actually takes office, or you're going to see some chop, maybe a little bit of downturn, maybe range in the 90s, the lower 90s to the mid 90s once he gets inaugurated. And especially if there's any type of executive orders that Trump decides to put into motion on his first day, like he said, that's where we could see some really positive fireworks for Bitcoin's price and potentially altcoins. Although I think the altcoins we're probably not going to see too much action until, I would say, guesstimating, the fourth week of January. That's really where I think we'll probably see some movement from some altcoins. However, it's a little bit different this cycle than it was last cycle, meaning a lot of the altcoins ran up together. And actually, it's pretty similar for 2018 because Bitcoin topped, I think, in December, and that's when alt season ran all the way through January of 2018. So you had like 2 months of altcoin season where everything went parabolic. Last cycle, things did start to move a little bit more individually. So you like, for example, you had like Dogecoin pop off and the first 3 or 4 months of the year, and then you saw Cardano really hit its peak. I think it was September, if I'm not mistaken. Just as some examples, but a lot of the altcoins last cycle, they actually really ripped hard from the first quarter all the way into mid-April. So it went barely into the second quarter by a month, and basically around the first part of May, maybe a couple weeks into May, that's when we saw the big dump from Bitcoin, which really brought the market down. And there's a lot of really negative sentiment that was going on, a lot of negative information that was flying around. Definitely a lot of FUD from Bitcoin uses too much electricity to, scams and, people getting wrecked left and right. So, when it comes down to it, we might see this is going to be one of those cycles where specific coins run hard, and then you may only have some coins that do like a 1 or 2x from here, is my guesstimation. Um, I was looking at one of the coins that I own today, and I thought that it was not performing as well as it did last cycle, but it's actually almost performing about the same as it did last cycle. I don't own any ETH, but I do like ETH. I just think it's elderly. I don't like using that blockchain very much, even though I do own some layer twos, uh, and I do own some. Yeah, sorry. So basically, what I'm getting at is the gas fees coming in and out of Ethereum are just horrid. I mean, even last year, I was getting like $30 to $50. I had some experiences where I was swapping from ETH, and it would cost me like $30 to $50 just for gas fees, and I wasn't trading with that much money. But it is what it is. You have to kind of take your wins where you can get them. But if we're looking at the weeks, let me see if we've got daily here so we can nail it down a little better. You'll have to forgive me for, you know what, well, let's do the weekly because otherwise this chart's going to look all funky. All right, so right now we are in the middle of January, actually the middle of the month. And so if let's just take a couple quick examples. This is Ethereum, and this is, let's see here, where are you? We'll go from Monday, December 28th. And you can see here, December 28th to the beginning of May or the end of April. That was a pretty, well, that didn't work out so well. Um, all right, so roughly right around in here, we'll go to the 28th of December. So the 28th of December, and if we go to the end of April, that's a 300% move, 325% move. So we didn't we didn't really see major candles until um, the end of the year, beginning of the year, last go around. Like right here, Ethereum was $700, and then you get to the end of April or the beginning of April, and it's at 3,000. So you didn't really see a lot of huge moves up until the new year. Now, granted, I was thinking that we would see ETH really start to pop off in the new year, but I also didn't take into consideration. I figured the first week would not do very much just because everybody's on vacation. Um, and then the second week of the year, I figured we'd probably see some price action. It hasn't really, the market obviously hasn't performed the way that I thought it would. But what is this right here? So that's July 20th. So you could see between July and December, it went up 182%. So 182% between July and the end of December. And then here, 182%. And then here, 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. 182%. We could just call it right there. There's about 35%. Now, if we're looking October of 2023, you've put in October 2023, you put in a 140% move, right? Now, if we're taking it from the bottom here, which is actually, let me do this really quick. So there to there. So that's the market cycle bottom. That's 250%. Now, people haven't been as bullish on ETH as you would have probably liked. There's a lot of new coins that have come out that have really caught fire. So 250% from cycle market bottom or the market bottom. And then we'll go ahead and take another reading here. This will probably be 500%. Oh yeah, that's 2000%. So that's the cycle bottom difference that we're looking at right there. And that's over the course of 60 weeks. So that's basically 1 year. You saw a 2,500% move. Um, I guess we could actually take it from here because this was actually a wick down into the bottom. But I think right here is where FTX crashed. Yeah, that's November of 2022. But this price action to here is 350%. So I think Ethereum is getting hurt because of their gas fees. People want a faster blockchain. They want the newer, shinier object, uh, and I think that the massive amount of coins that are being produced every single day, like on the pump fund, and you can pretty much make your own like meme coin or coin in general on any blockchain, and more people that are getting into it I think are experimenting, and some coins are taking off, like Fart Coin, for example. That's been the hottest, shiniest object recently. It is what it is. You gotta laugh at something like that, in my honest opinion. I mean, I almost bought it. I could have had some pretty sick gains, but I just had to be very careful with what I'm doing with my funds. I'm not trying to risk it all on something that could go to zero very quickly. That's one of my biggest things right now. I did have one project rug on me, unfortunately. There was an explanation. I'm not going to sit here and say whether or not it was totally true or whether it was just a good old fashioned rug pull. I mean, if you looked at the chart and you heard the story, you'd probably say it's a rug pull. And then I did get a couple of coins that actually have had two rug pulls for the most part. Either that or one of them was a rug pull. The other one, the project, just it caught fire for a little bit and then it just faded out. But the chart doesn't look terrible. It does have an upward trend to some degree, or at least from when the coin was released, it has a positive trend line. It just made a lower low recently, so that's where, and I'm out of that coin too, by the way. I got out of both of those coins, unfortunately, with huge losses or big losses. And I don't mean it was more than 10% of my bankroll because it's not. I was very specific on how I was allocating my funds. I think it's probably somewhere in the area of 7 to 8%. And with all the other coins that I own, I'm still very much in the positive. But I did make those couple mistakes, which who really knew? But after doing a lot of research, I saw where I could have found information that would have potentially led me to not making those specific moves. So you really have to do your own research. You can't just believe anybody out there. And I saw that there was a community, but the more I was in one of the communities for this meme coin, I just really started noticing the behavior of people in the Telegram groups or the Discords or wherever they had their specific group. And you have to be really careful when you start to get some red flags. Like if a moderator's, acting like a child, for example. And what I mean by that is if they tell you, if you ask, hey, do you guys know where to, let's just say hypothetically, this is what my buddy, he had this, situation where he was in a Telegram group and he said, "Hey, does anybody know where you can shill like meme coins that you make?" And then the moderator apparently jumped on his back and said, "Hey, we don't shill coins in here. That's not cool. I don't want to kick you out of the group." And I said, "Well, I don't understand. I was just asking if anybody knows where I can go shill them, because I'm not going to do that here in this group." And they said, "Why don't you just drop it?" And then they were carrying on a conversation about Bitcoin with somebody else. And I said, "Well, how is it okay that you talk about Bitcoin, but I was just asking where I can shill a coin," or he was, I should say. Excuse me, I kind of got tripped up there. I was kind of talking in the first person, but anyway, the mod kept trying to shut him up, and basically said, "Don't shill coins. We were talking about, the price of Bitcoin," when in actuality they were talking about the price action of Bitcoin, and based on what he told me. Anyway, the point is that was a red flag for me. And there's definitely some other red flags in there too. I do have one more meme coin that I am up like 300 or 400% on right now. And I did some research on that coin after I had owned it, and it was up pretty big. It hasn't rug pulled because it started to catch on a little bit. And I don't want to talk about what coin it is, but you got to be careful because there are people, if you follow any influencers, make sure to do your research on the coins that they're talking about, and especially if they're meme coins. I just wanted like to try to help people learn from my experience. But on one of the meme coins, the person that's been pushing this coin has had some speculation surrounding whether or not they're a pump and dump or rug puller. And that's where I think that you really do have to do your research on any meme coin that you're looking at. I mean, if it's like $10, $20, and you just want to gamble with it and see what happens, sure, why not? I mean, of course, this is not financial advice, but I'm just saying from my perspective, I've only held on to that coin. The the one coin that I'm talking about, where one of the guys who's pushing the coin, has some speculative information out there that leads me to believe that he might rug pull the entire thing. He's got a bunch of these coins, enough that you're talking almost to seven figures. Now, the only reason I've hung on to it is because specifically that coin has started to catch on, and it's been pretty stable for the most part. So it is a bit of a gamble. I mean, I could take some nice profits if I wanted to, but just do your own research and make sure before you put any significant amount of money or any small amount of money that you don't want to lose. Just do your research. Like if it's an influencer that's out there, check out their X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Check out like videos on YouTube. Like run their X name or whatever name, if they have a YouTube channel, run that through YouTube and see if there's anybody that's done videos on it, because that's where I found this person had quite a few videos made by other creators that were basically calling him out on being somebody who's a scammer. Um, I think that he's probably going to hold on to that coin for quite some time, is my guesstimation. I would say once it really starts pumping, I think I'm going to have to get out at a number that I've already got in my head to protect what I've made on that coin, and then I'll probably end up rolling it into something else that hasn't pumped yet. I mean, I just got to play that one by ear, because ultimately I don't want to lose the profits. I don't want to get out too late. I don't want to get my head dumped on, of course. Nobody wants that. So sometimes you got to start taking profits early and at least, pull your initial investment out. That way you don't lose anything at the end of the day. You just break even if for some reason it goes to zero. But I've got probably about 10 different coins right now that are definitely in profit. And I just wanted to share a little bit about that. I have a variety of different coins, from AI to layer ones. I've got a couple layer twos. I've got some gaming coins as well. But I don't think I have more than 15 or 20 coins. Um, and I think that you just gotta, you really gotta pick and choose what narratives are going to be the best. I mean, Virtual's protocol, that thing just absolutely blew up. I could have gotten in at like 20 or 30 cents on that coin, several months ago. And I'm kind of kicking myself on that one and on Solana because I had the opportunity to actually get into Solana. I almost dropped five figures on Solana, low five figures on Solana when it was at $10. And I'm kicking myself for not doing that. However, in this market, you do really have to forgive yourself, but you have to make sure that you take profits. Otherwise, things are not going to, you're not going to be happy with the results and all the work that you put into it. It's just going to seem like a waste of time. And really, you just didn't protect yourself. If you're honestly not taking profits. And, I've heard from a lot of people, and in my experience as well, they've always felt like buying the bottoms or the bottom range, not the exact bottom, is easier than selling into the market as it's pumping because you're getting euphoric and obviously you're euphoric and you think you're the best trader in the world because you nailed a 500% gain and five extra money or in some cases 10, 20 or 50 extra money. But you just have to make sure, like, without question, that you're following the right people who aren't going to try to rug pull you on purpose. Uh, there are people that I've heard mention coins and on their channels, and they've got 100, 200,000 people that are following them, and they've mentioned coins, and then several episodes later, or several streams later, or videos later, they are talking about selling those bags that they've held since 2021. So, in some cases, people have held onto their bags for a couple cycles. So you have to be careful about who exactly you listen to. And it's from what I've gathered in my experience, being in over a full cycle now, you really honestly have to, you really just have to make sure you know who is who. Because you can tell there are some people that run pump and dumps, scams, and there are people that actually try to help you because they've been around in the space for a while. So those people you have to identify on your own. I try to give names, but I don't really want to do that just because if somebody like trusts that person or company or whatever it is, if you trust them and you dump all your money into it thinking that that's a surefire thing, then I would never want to cause anybody to, or at least I would never want anybody to assume my word is the gospel or whatever religious book you want to talk about. It's you really got to spend some time in the space, watch a lot of videos, check out what's on X. That's where you're going to get most of your knowledge from. So that's just some word of advice if you're new, and hopefully things will work out for you. Be careful though. In 2025, I don't think the bull run is going to go farther than November of 2025. I think there is an off chance that we'll see the market end sometime in April or May potentially, and we might see a cooling off period around then a little bit. It's hard to tell because every market cycle is different. If you look at all the market cycles, you will see that they are different. They might rhyme a little bit and have some general characteristics or frameworks of the overall aspect of the market. For example, you can see here, you've got your little mountain here, and you've got a bigger mountain here. And right now, this is December of 2020 or January 2025, and Ethereum topped out last cycle at almost the end of November in 2021. So if that's any indication, and Ethereum is going to remain a pretty solid blockchain or a project that people are going to respect, for example, we'll just put that there. I mean, you could be talking, if we're going off of the Wix, I got to change this up a little bit. Hypothetically, I mean, that's looking like that's March of 2026. So we'll just put it November 24th, roughly. If it follows that trend line and it bounces off the trend line there, you're probably going to see it rip just as hard to the upside. Now, that's assuming that people still want to utilize Ethereum, and that's assuming that the gas fees aren't going to be a turnoff and that people are not going to run to like a Solana, for example. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are probably going to end up buying cheaper coins because they don't know what they're really doing. And you got to be careful when you buy cheaper coins because may not be a stable project and it may not be as solid of a project. It may not even you just have to be careful with what you're doing. Ethereum, I could easily see a $7,000 price. I mean, that's all the way over here by end of November. I mean, if it's April, that's going to be pretty tough for Ethereum to make that move that fast. But let's look at February 15th. Yeah, so like just in 11 weeks, Ethereum moved up 165%. So if Ethereum moves, that's 130% in 10 weeks. So you kind of have a similar potential for a blow off top in April, would be my guesstimation. 9 weeks would put us roughly at the end of, yeah, 2 months would be 8 weeks. So that'd be probably the third or fourth week in March of 2025. And if you think about it, that's taking, Ethereum from 3,200 all the way up to, you know, basically 7,800, 8,000. So there is room for it to move very quickly. It's just there's a lot of people talking about Solana and SUI, or SUI is how you spell the ticker. There's people that are, more spread out because there's more blockchain. You've got different narratives like AI, gaming, layer ones, layer twos. Of course, you have meme coins as well, which have been pretty hot. That's a lot of retail will have fun with it and they'll throw $20, $50 at it. Some people will throw $100, $500 at it. But I'd be very careful if you dabble in meme coins. I'm actually no longer going to be playing around with meme coins unless they've shown a huge community and some solid stability, just as far as I would say price action, but engagement from people on X and on YouTube. You have to be careful, and meme coins are, some people get really lucky and some people actually lose everything. And let's just hope that I don't have any other rug pulls this cycle, because that would be a little bit of a downer. But yeah, so that's basically about wrapping it up for the day. If you like what you heard today, smash the like, subscribe button. And this is Dead Skull Crypto. I'm out. You keep it positive, Patty. And hopefully we'll all be able to make a little money.